then dominates most of your novel writing career after that. So what had prompted that move?
I am a historian, and certainly was brought up within history. If you can call a political family in Washington in historic times, the Depression and the Second World War, and on down to the present. I have been there, if not at the creation, as Dean Acheson put it. I've certainly been there through a lot and observed a lot firsthand, and members of my family have played important parts at times. So you asked me why I chose a historical novel with Julian. Well, I was interested in something which the average Brit or American doesn't even know exists, and that is called the novel of ideas. Now, it sounds very pompous, and in certain quarters in London, there would be a lot of thigh slapping about that, because we know there are no ideas. Ha, ha, ha. Well, there are ideas, and I thought I can do this with America. And Julian was, first of all, I'd always detested Christianity, and I thought, well, I'd better examine the roots of it, so I'll go to the apostate. Why did Julian? I'll follow his career. He's well documented, by the way, so you're not making it up. You've got a lot to go on. And then with that, I found I can do. If I take it far enough back, I can do a novel of ideas. And specifically, and I stuck to very broad ones that I knew concerned everybody, or one way or another, which is Christianity. So I would say I've done 7 or 8 out of nearly 30 novels have been historical, simply because I want to discuss things and find out things. And it's also, I like novels of dialogue, and if you have an ear for it, and again, you need to be a bit of a dramatist for this. This is my training in the theater. It was well worthwhile. And I like to think that a so-called novel of ideas set in history can have the same charge.
I want to ask about that, because the voice seems very different from Julian onwards. It's from the earlier novels. It's gossipy, funnier than the earlier novels are very conventional in comparison, aren't they? It does seem that the voice changed, and I wondered how much of that was to do with the film work and the theatre work.
Well, I should think probably a lot. I don't think any novelist who has gone into the theatre and learned anything, even had a success in it, doesn't come out of it recharged. But I don't see, you see, there's so many different tones to these books. The interesting thing to me is that it is the voice in which you decide to tell your story. If you go into a first-person narrative and the first person has nothing much to do with you, as in the case of Myra Breckinridge, then you're in the Joan of Arc situation. You have to depend on what you start hearing. I am Myra Breckinridge, whom no man shall possess, clad only in, what was it? One dress shield I held off the Trobriand Islanders. What did that mean? Another time, walking down the steps from the Quirinale Palace in Rome, I heard Duluth, love it or loathe it, you can never leave it or lose it. What on earth does that mean? I thought. I went back, wrote it down, and a book followed upon that sentence. And the sentence came out of a new voice, which I had not used before. I do a lot of different voices, so to say that my tone changes with Julian, I'm opening it up, and I'm not writing conventional fiction, which my first books were, as I had no other models, and the wings were untried by then.
And the idea behind the historical novels and a lot of what you've written is this idea of empire, which is very important to you.
Well, it's the only American theme. It's the theme of the country. Since we first started it, it was the theme of the original Puritans. We have been forever expansionist and forever on the march, and forever at war, and it was for empire. Well, that is the central theme of our so-called republic. in the course of it, many odd and interesting things happened to us and to the world. I'm writing now about the special relationship between England and the United States, which is one of the most gorgeous jokes we ever thought up. By the Second World War, it was always Roosevelt's policy, charming as he was with Churchill. He misled Churchill totally. Churchill thought he was a friend. He wasn't. He was a rival. And in order not to humiliate the British, we thought up the special relationship because otherwise they would be a client state, which would be undignified. And so then they started to play Athens to our Rome and all sorts of foolishness. But this is the thrust of our history, and this is what I am, at this very moment, I'm doing the final volume on how we destroyed the British Empire.
You say the final volume, so you wouldn't be tempted to take it closer to the present day, this sequence?
I'm too close to it for one thing, and I've written too much about it for another thing. I end with really 1950. Our great moment is over. We are the masters of the earth economically, and we are the masters certainly militarily. But the Korean War has begun, McCarthyism has begun, the decline has set in. The Cold War goes on, uses up all our money, makes completely demented the polity. And we don't know where we are now because Russia was vicious enough to collapse on us in 89 and 90, leaving us all alone with nothing to do. The only thing I regret about old age is I'm not going to live to see the next 20 years because there are going to be such fireworks coming out of the United States as we have to face the situation that we're going to end up somewhere between Argentina and Brazil. We might have a good soccer team, but that would be it.